right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna have to move the camera a little bit so you guys can see what I'm doing as well. My name is Kelly Muma. I'm also known as Ducky. I'm the camp director at Butterworth, which is day camp. And we're gonna talk about tie-dye today, which is super exciting. With tie-dye, we wanna make sure that we're thinking about safety first. So that means like wearing our gloves. I've got gloves to make sure you don't have tie-dye all over you. If you want to wear goggles, you can do that. A face mask, any of those are possibilities as well. So the first thing that we need to do is we're going to figure out what we're tie-dyeing. So I'm going to tie-dye this white t-shirt. With this white t-shirt, you want to look for something that's made out of cotton. That's something that's going to really absorb the dye and make it so that it's going to be super colorful and everything. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to soak this in some water. Commonly you would use soda ash. That's what we would do at camp. However, if you don't have soda ash, I was looking this up last night, you can actually just use salt, which is something that is probably in your cupboard. So I'm gonna pour some salt in here. This already has water in it. And mix it around a little bit. And I'm gonna start by soaking my shirt. So you wanna let your shirt soak for about 10 to 15 minutes. This is just to make sure that the dye reacts with the fabric and stays in your shirt for a long time. So I already have water in my gloves, but at least it's just salt water. No big deal. So I'm gonna let this soak for just a little bit. And while we're letting that soak, I am actually gonna start working on making some dye. When I look up how to make the different types of dye, I usually use Dharma, and that's just one of the brands of tie-dye. So you can use the tie-dye kits that you can find at Walmart or any store, but this is like professional strength, I guess you could say. But Dharma is a really good dye. That's what we like to use. So I'm gonna stick on my gloves and I'm gonna make some dye. It'll give you guys recipes of how much water with how much dye you need to use to make. So I've already taken my little bottles here and I filled it up. I put half a cup of water in there because I'm only dyeing one shirt. So I'm gonna take and put my gloves on. All right, cool. So we have some things that we need to put in here. In the dye, we are gonna put the color of the dye as well as the urea. Now this is just to make sure that the dye really sticks in the fabric. And with urea, you're gonna use about 1 tablespoon for a cup of dye. So I'm gonna take, and I'm not gonna use as much because I have only half a cup of water here, but I like to use plastic spoons. If you wanna use measuring utensils, you can absolutely do that as well. So I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna dump it in. All right, so we got the urea in there. And I've got, what color dyes did I grab? I have blue, I also grabbed red, and I also grabbed a lilac, so like a purple. You can use as many colors as you want, as few of colors as you want, but one thing I wanna make sure that you know is that depending on how dark you want the dye, or if you're using like yellow, you're gonna have to put a lot more dye in there just to make sure that it shows up that color. So I'm gonna start with my blue. That is definitely not blue, that is red, sorry. So we're gonna take our blue, and with blue, I'm gonna use about 2 teaspoons of dye. I don't need that much. So I'm gonna take just a little bit and put it into the bottle here, and I'm gonna make a mess, and that's okay. I would highly recommend make sure that you do tie-dye outside. It's just a messy activity, and like you notice, I'm doing mine completely outside. So it's just gonna go in the grass. Make sure it's an area that is approved by your parents, because you don't want to tie-dye on like a sidewalk and then be like, no, there's tie-dye all over my sidewalk. So I put that in there, and I'm gonna shake up my dye. Ooh, that's pretty good blue. So that's my first one, I got blue. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing for the rest of my bottles. I'm only gonna do 3 colors today, just so it's nothing too crazy, but I'm super excited. All right, so our next one, we gotta put some urea in here. go ahead and do this one as red. Alright, so we stick that guy in there. Whoop. And we'll put our lid on. And notice I'm still wearing my gloves. I'm not going to take my gloves off until I'm completely done, because otherwise your hands are going to turn whatever color the dye is. Alright, that looks pretty good. There's an ant crawling on me. Alright, and our last one is lilac. So purple. So this is probably going to be one that I'm going to need a little bit more color with. Hello from Massachusetts. Welcome, welcome. Alright, so last one is lilac. Okay. I'm done with my urea now. And I want to say that you can buy urea at any craft store. It should come in, this is green, this is not lilac. Guess I changed my mind when I was grabbing colors. So with the green, notice how like right now it's just kind of absorbing in there. That's not that much green that I put in there. A little bit of dye goes a long way. I'm gonna close this and we're gonna shake this. All right, cool. So I have all my dyes ready. And the next thing that we need to do, so a question that just came in was, where do you buy urea from? I would find it at any craft stores. Dharma, the website where I get the dye from, is a good place to purchase it as well. Okay, cool. So we got our tie-dye ready, and I'm ready to grab my shirt out of this water. Now, I have some dye on my hands. I'm gonna take and try and rinse out, or I want to get as much water out of this as I can. So I'm gonna do this where I'm not sitting. And I already got some dye on it, but that's okay because those are the colors that I'm gonna be using here in just a little bit. Much water out as I can. Alright, and your shirt is going to be wet the whole time that we're doing this, and that is totally okay. So we have a couple options how we can fold this. I'm going to fold it without my gloves on just because it's going to be easier for you guys to see. So I'm going to do some patterns for us. The first pattern that I want to show you guys is to make lines. So if you want to make lines with your shirt, you're just going to take and kind of do like an accordion style all the way down your shirt. I don't know if y'all can see that. I'm trying to make it as easy to be seen. So I'm just folding it kind of like an accordion. And once I get my shirt folded accordion style, I'm going to take some rubber bands and just wrap them around here. Now, you do not have to use a million rubber bands. You can use just a couple rubber bands. It's completely up to you on how many rubber bands you'd like to use. And you'll just take them and you'll put them on your shirt. Okay, so that would be if I would want this to be lines. You can do the stripes so they're horizontal or vertical. Whatever you are interested in doing, you can do that. So that's one thing that we can do. We can also do one of my favorites, which is called bullseyes. So you take your two fingers, you're just gonna grab a spot, and it makes it so that your shirt kind of all falls down, and you're just gonna take and put rubber bands down this. You can also do it so that there's more than one bullseye on your shirt as well. So I could have multiple different spots like this. And then the last one that I'm going to talk about today is the spiral, which I think that's what I'm going to do with my shirt today, is a spiral. So I'm actually going to lay this down, and I'm going to move you guys from where my camera is currently sitting. I was trying to avoid getting dye all over my hands. Was not successful, but that's okay. That's part of the fun, right? All right, let me see if I can get you guys flipped around. There we go. Awesome. So, for the spiral, we're gonna lay this down flat on the ground. And notice I have dye all over this right now. That's okay. So, I'm gonna take my shirt, I'm gonna grab it in the middle and pinch it, and you're just gonna turn it. Turning, turning, turning. I want mine to stay semi-flat while I'm doing this. Turning. And it's gonna end up being in a circular shape like this. All right. So before I tie my shirt up, are there any patterns that from what I just talked about that we're interested in seeing again? If we want to see like the lines again, or if we want to see the bullseye. I guess I can turn around so you guys can see me. Or you can just see my supplies. There we go. Do we have any questions so far? Awesome, awesome. All right, so I'm gonna tie some rubber bands around this. I'm gonna set you guys back over here. All right. So I'm gonna take my rubber bands and I'm gonna tie them around this. So see how it's just sitting in that spiral form? That is our goal. It's a little bit breezy out here. That's okay. All right, so it stayed in a spiral-ish shape, and that's our goal. You can also, thank you, Normal. You can also do a diagonal with the lines as well. So that's definitely another good option. Instead of doing it from the top to the bottom or the side to the side, you can just go diagonally down. That's a really great idea as well. All right, so I'm gonna put my rubber bands on here. If you don't have rubber bands, you can use hair ties, you can use string, you can use strands of grass. Like, there's so many different options on what you can use to make sure that your shirt or whatever you're tie-dyeing can go in, stay in its form. All right, so here's my shirt. I think I'm gonna put one more rubber band on here. Make sure it stays all nice and good together. All right, one more. All right, cool. Awesome, hello, hello. All right, so I got my shirt. It's all tied up nice and pretty. And this is the point that you absolutely need to be wearing gloves for, because this is the messiest part. This is with the dye. So I'm gonna put my gloves back on. Boop. Boop. And now I'm gonna put the tie-dye on my shirt. You do not want to take the whole half cup of dye that you just made and pour it on there, because then your shirt is gonna be super, super sopping wet. You don't want it to be sopping wet. You're gonna put enough on your shirt, but not too little. So I'm gonna put some colors on here, and I'm just kind of letting it absorb in my shirt. I want to make sure that I get down inside those folds, because otherwise the red is only going to be sitting on the top of my shirt. So I'm going to go down the side. And it's easier if you leave this laying on the ground when you're doing it, but I want to make sure that you guys can see everything I'm doing. Then I'm going to switch colors, do another color, get it all nice and soaked in there. Okay, I got green left. And notice it's dripping a little bit, but it's not anything that's too crazy. You don't want to take and put colors on top of each other, because then the colors will mix together and it'll turn into like a murky brown color, and that's not what we're looking for. I think that you guys are looking for the bright and vibrant colors. Woo! Tie-dye was falling over at me. So get it all on here. I'm gonna flip mine over and make sure that the other side has dye on it as well. See, it's starting to absorb all the way through. I hope this is green. There we go. Awesome. All right, cool. So I have my shirt. It has a whole bunch of dye on it. It's okay to leave some spots to be white because then you can see there's more colors to the shirt. After you're done getting all the dye on your shirt that you're interested in doing, you're gonna take, you can use a grocery bag. I use Ziploc bags just because then it stays sealed and it won't make as much of a mess as I let it sit. So with the tie-dye, you need to let it sit for an extended period of time. I let mine sit at least 24 hours to make sure that the dye absorbs effectively into my bag. If you're doing this with a larger group, make sure that they put their names on the tags of their shirts as well as on their Ziploc bag. That way you know exactly whose shirt it is for our next step. So I'm gonna set that to the side. Unfortunately, I don't have a shirt ready to show you what the next part looks like. But what you would do, I'm gonna let that sit for 24 hours. And then we need to wash out all the excess dye. So there's gonna be a lot of dye that comes out. You're gonna take it and you wanna use it in a sink that it's okay if it gets a little bit messy. So, excuse me, like a bathroom sink or an outside spigot, all really good options. And you'll take your shirt and you're gonna use like cool water and you're gonna let it run over the dye, and you want to start squeezing out the excess dye. As you do that, you are more than welcome to start taking off rubber bands. You wanna start with the lightest color because otherwise the colors will start to bleed together. So you'll run it under the water and you wanna do this and squeeze out the excess dye until the water is clear again, okay? After you've done that, you're gonna do this in a load of laundry, and in that load of laundry, make sure that this is the only thing that's in there. So only tie-dye items can go in the washer together. Otherwise you're gonna have tie-dye on other clothes and that's not gonna be too good. So you'll run it on a general cycle, you'll dry it, and then you'll have your tie-dye shirt ready to show and wear. So I hope that this helps you out with tie-dyeing. I know that there's another live session at 3 o'clock with some more tie-dyeing options for you as well. So I hope that this helps you out. I hope you enjoy, and make sure you try and keep the dye off your hands and enjoy. All right, well, I will see you guys later. Bye.